everybody, Earl at thelogbook.com, back for more Voyages of Shelf Discovery. It is time for some Playmates Star Trek love. I was a huge fan of the 1990s Playmates Star Trek action figure line, which were, I forget if they were 4 or 4.5 inches. I actually have one of the originals here, and I have it here for a reason. This is Captain Picard here, from the original Next Gen line, probably 92 or 93 that one came out. They didn't come up with a figure of Picard in standard uniform until the second wave or so. And we now have a return to Playmates of the Star Trek action figure license. Only these are 5-inch scale. So here is the new figure of Captain Picard. Picard is a little worse for wear, a little dented here. So this one obviously is an opener. I am mystified as to why Playmates felt the need to put these in a different scale. I know that Super 7 has the 3 3/4 inch scale locked down for their reaction figure line, but it's just kind of mystifying as to why they would do this, other than, of course, the obvious, to make chumps like me buy them all over again. Now, they've gone very retro with the packaging, but it's not exactly the same as the original. As you can see here, this is kind of paradoxical. Smaller figure, larger package. Larger figure, smaller package. The accessories are not quite the same, but close. Playmates is, I think they're really going for a retro thing here, with the phaser having this giant orange beam sticking out of it, which, when I was collecting those back in the day, I don't mind telling you, I cut the orange beam off of all of the 24th century phasers first thing. I keep in mind that original 90s figure line, I was 20 by the time that came out. So those guys were going straight onto a shelf. It's not like they were really being played with. And so this did not result in, phasers being lost or anything of that nature. I can see now that we are held in the package with these clear rubber bands that I despise, and I do not have my scissors on hand. However, strangely enough, I do usually keep my nail clippers at my desk. I do everything at this desk except sleep most of the time. So I am going to once again press the nail clippers into service in freeing Captain Picard from captivity. I'm sure he would have some wise words to say about captivity running counter to the nature of life itself in the first place. In fact, I'm fairly certain he did have a speech like that. I think it was the one where they kidnapped him and replaced him with a duplicate. What's really sad is that I actually, without notes, without a script, I sit here and I remember stuff like that. Oh, there's still one. Oh, okay, so they are tied to the back, so you have to cut from the front. Cut carefully. There we go, and yep. Try to catch everything in the bubble. And we'll get the captain out of his package. Wow, okay, so we have ankle articulation with these. We have wrist articulation. Okay, so we have, but we don't have the bicep swivel of the 90s figures. That's kind of odd. Oh, and the neck is where the joint is, so he can look up, he can look down. How odd. Yeah, I am mystified both by the scale change and, you know, they really kind of messed with the formula. Oh, no, man down. So we'll see if we can get the stalwart captain to stand there. His accessories include, in case he has trouble standing, he does come with a Starfleet Delta stand. Now, it is not the next-gen communicator. That's interesting. The originals were the next-gen communicator. Okay, we have the desktop computer here, which strangely feels like it's in two loosely attached pieces. We have a Type 1 phaser, have a tricorder, and we have a data pad. Interesting that his desktop computer terminal does not have a screen printed on it, but maybe that's just them being savvy. I mean, it's easy to find a... There's the phaser with the dreaded orange beam on it. It's pretty easy to find an LCARS display on the internet and print out your own, and then, you know, the screen says what you want the screen to say, and not what somebody at Playmates thought it needed to say. So the first three characters from Next Gen available in this scale, we have Picard, we have Riker, we have Data. It's interesting that Picard is in standard uniform, because I remember the first wave of the original Playmates figures, the Picard they had in that first wave, he was wearing that captain's jacket that started showing up in the 5th season, where it had the gray turtleneck underneath, you know, kind of hinting at the future Deep Space Nine uniforms. And going to have to set Riker loose again. I'm relieved that while they seem to be going for something of the, they seem to be doing the retro packaging and retro accessories, I am glad that we're not just redoing the original figures. Exactly, because while the first wave Picard figure had his captain's jacket and this one doesn't, that's not a deal breaker. What is also not a deal breaker is that our Riker figure does not come with a pre-torn uniform, unlike his counterpart from the 90s line, which I thought was the silliest thing. And I think we didn't get a Riker in an untorn uniform until it was the first season uniform version. If you wanted a Riker figure without a torn uniform, you had to have him in first season uniform. Okay, he also has a tricorder and a pad. He also has a Starfleet briefcase. Again, there is no painted or decal details on any of these. Oh, and he has kind of sensor light thing. I seem to remember that from the episode where Geordi mutated into a disturbingly unclothed fluorescent lizard. Right? And again, a stand that is not the next-gen Delta. Riker comes with a Type 2 phaser. And the beam. Of course, the beam is wavy. The beam is wavy because of how it was packaged, and I don't know what to make of the phaser beams. I mean, it's kind of interesting what they are choosing to go retro on here, and what they are not going retro on. In some cases, the choices they are making, like not having Riker's uniform torn from the word go, I totally approve of their decision to not do that. As much noise as they made back in '92 when Playmates launched their original line, which was not the original next-gen figure line. The original next-gen figure line came out in '87 from Galoob. But I think that trying to launch an action figure line alongside that first season was foolhardy. The first season, I mean, I don't hate it like some people do. Some people are like, oh, skip it. You can't. You can't skip the first season of Next Gen because otherwise you don't get the introduction to Q. Okay, I remember this. This is Data's diagnostic tool. He also has a Type 2 phaser. Oh, the beam is kind of straight on this one. Data's a better shot than Riker, obviously. Oh, that's the bubble. Once again, Delta stand. And once again, a tricorder with a handle on the back of it. I guess they are anticipating the figure's hands not actually being able to handle the accessories, which I seem to remember tricorders in the original 90s figure line had handles on them as well, at least at first. Okay, so let me try to get the rubber bands off. Oh, there's still one. Trying so hard not to nick the paint on the figure in any way. Oh, there's still one. Okay. Ah, no. There is not one. Okay. I did cut it. It's being stubborn. I've seen people saying on social media, ironically enough, that the Data action figure looks more like Mark Zuckerberg than Brent Spiner. They're not wrong. Kind of, not the best Spiner likeness I've ever seen. The 90s figure was, I think they got his facial features better. Oh, no! Oh! Man overboard. Oh, good. Mercutio's gonna get him. And thus the illustrious career of Commander Will Riker came to an end, eaten by a giant black cat. And there's Data. Let's see, they have the diagnostic tools, but does he open up and reveal circuitry inside? I can't tell in the light here. Hey, take it easy on... Oh, Mercutio's gonna run off with Riker. Pardon me just one moment. Hey. Get your own toys. I've invested heavily in cat toys. That's why there's been a long gap between me opening my toys. Okay, evidently we are going to need the stands for these fellas. So let me do that. I do not see... one thing that they did in the 90s that I was about to get around to mentioning was they printed a serial number on the foot, on the bottom of one of the figure's feet. And, they were talking about, every figure is numbered. It's a collector's dream. Or some wording to that effect. And I do not see numbered figures in this case. And I'm okay with that. I kind of wonder if the scale change was an attempt to head off any complaints from super die-hard collectors of the original figures. Sort of the same kind of thing that you heard with the Hasbro Retro collection of Star Wars figures now that reproduce the Kenner molds and packaging, only the packaging is printed with a design to give you the impression that it's weathered, that they're old figures, and stuff that obviously was done because the die-hard collectors were going ape. Insert your own expletive after the word ape. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Die-hard collectors were going nuts because it's like, this will reduce the value of my originals. All they have to do with these, if they made them 4 inches tall, was not put the numbers on the bottom. And so that way you could tell if it was an original figure or not. Because, I guarantee you no one's going to paint a white area on the bottom of one of these guys' shoes. It's just... And then try to match the computer printing that was stamped on there. That's simply too much effort. These are decent figures. It's just a weird scale. They're too big to be compatible with any of the accessories or any of the stuff that went with the 4-inch figures from the 90s. and they're too small to be compatible with, say, Black Series Star Wars figures, which are 6-inch. And they're just too small to be compatible with the 5.5-inch character options Doctor Who figures and anything that goes with them. Won't look right on the same shelf with them. I will be totally honest with you. I would have passed on these if it were not for the fact that the first wave. Now, this is not all of the first wave. This is just the next gen characters from the first wave. The rest of the first wave consists of Kirk, Spock, and Khan from Star Trek II, and Michael Burnham and Saru from Discovery. If those figures from Discovery had not been in this first wave, I wouldn't have bothered. In fact, well, I just so happen to have a 6-inch figure right here from the old Babylon 5 figure line. Okay, Kosh is not supposed to tower over everyone by, 2 heads. So I've got some fairly strong feelings about the scale change. I normally don't follow a line into a scale change, but if they will at least give us the full main crew of each show, then I'm in. And the Star Trek Prodigy figure line, which is going to be this same scale that is upcoming, that was another good reason for me to dive into the 5-inch figures, because those will be compatible, and you can do funny mix and match stuff, which I am a total sucker for anyway. But I'm really torn about the scale change. I feel like it would have used less material to make them the old scale. But here we are with a new batch of 5-inch Star Trek action figures. This is going to be the one range that rules them all, because it is going to have supposedly characters from every series. I want Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks in 2023, please. I would also like the rest of the next gen crew. I would like more of the Discovery crew. I don't just want 2 or 3 characters from each one. So I'm hoping this is the beginning of Playmates doing this right, and not the beginning of me continuing to scratch my head and asking them, why are you doing this way?